Scarred billionaire's shocking transformation. Can love heal his deepest pain? Part 2. In the heart of a city that never sleeps, a secret was unraveling, one that could change everything. Nathaniel Blackwood, a name whispered in hushed tones, was the epitome of mystery. Known for his sharp suits and piercing gaze, he was a billionaire, yes, but behind that facade was a man marked by tragedy. The rumors flowed as freely as the champagne at his infamous galas. They spoke of a scar that ran deeper than the skin, a wound that money couldn't heal. And now, he was about to face a reckoning that would either save him or shatter him into a million pieces. As the clock struck midnight at his lavish estate, the air crackled with electricity. Nathaniel stood alone on the balcony, the city lights twinkling like stars. But it wasn't the view that captivated him. It was the weight of regret pressing down on his chest. That night years ago haunted him still. War had taken his brother. The guilt twisted in his gut like venom. No amount of wealth could buy forgiveness. His eyes caught a glimpse of movement below. A figure emerged from the shadows, clad in darkness. A woman? She moved with a grace that sent chills down his spine. Who was she? And why was she here? It was as if she were drawn to him by an unseen force. Tension hung thick in the air, sending a warning signal straight to his heart. A scream echoed in his mind, unfamiliar yet terrifying. Something was about to unravel. The guests inside erupted into laughter, clinking glasses, completely unaware of the storm brewing outside. Nathaniel couldn't shake the feeling that fate had chosen this very moment to intervene. Who was this mysterious visitor? And what did she want with him? Before he could ponder any further, his phone buzzed urgently in his pocket. A text. Nathaniel, you need to come inside. It's about the contract. The words loomed ominously. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Stepping back into the grand hall, Nathaniel's heart thundered in his chest. An unfamiliar pain coursed through him. In that sea of familiar faces, he felt utterly alone. The clock continued to tick, and shadows danced around him, whispering secrets. Suddenly, he locked eyes with the woman from the balcony. She stood at the entrance, the light framing her silhouette like a halo. Her gaze pierced through the noise, sending a jolt straight to his core. Who was she really? Why did she seem to know his pain, to feel it like her own? In that instant, the world around him faded, the laughter, the clinking of glasses, even the gnawing guilt. He was no longer just a scarred billionaire. He was a man on the brink of something astonishing. But what if she held the key to either saving him or sealing his fate? The room grew silent, as if even the walls seemed to anticipate what would happen next. The moment hung suspended in time. Nathaniel felt as though the room had collapsed, leaving only the two of them in this vast, echoing silence. Her eyes were deep pools of emotion, swirling with understanding and something fierce. The laughter that had filled the space was nothing more than a distant memory, fading into shadows as he took a cautious step toward her. What do you want? The question slipped from his lips, raw and unguarded. He didn't know if he was ready to expose himself to this stranger, but the longing within him surged like a tidal wave. I came to find you, she replied, her voice steady, yet laced with urgency. There are things you need to know about your brother. The world tilted. His breath hitched. The very mention of his brother struck like a thunderclap against the dark recesses of his mind. Memories roared to life, vivid and haunting. He hadn't heard his brother's name spoken in years without a twisting pain. What do you know about him? he demanded, a mixture of anger and desperation bubbling to the surface. The air thickened, crackling around them. She took a tentative step forward, resolve written across her face. I know things you've forgotten, things you buried. Secrets you should never have had to carry alone. Before Nathaniel could respond, the moment shattered. A flood of guests surged towards him, their laughter and chatter returning like a wave crashing upon the shore. But the sound felt muted, a blanket smothering the connection he had just felt with this woman. She faded back into the crowd, leaving him with only the heat of her presence as a reminder that something had shifted. He turned away from the cacophony, frustration spearing through him. Ignoring the call of his phone, a new message demanding his attention, he pushed through the throng, searching for her. When he finally caught sight of her across the room, he noticed she was engaged in a hushed conversation with an older man. The intensity of their exchange was palpable, tension coiling between them like a tightly wound spring. Nathaniel's pulse quickened. Who was she really? What did she have to do with his brother? His curiosity twisted into an obsession. Just then, he felt a hand on his shoulder. It was his business partner, Luca, grave expression marking his features. Nathaniel, we need you. The negotiations for the contract have stalled. It's serious. Not now, Luca, Nathaniel snapped, shaking off the hand, eyes still locked on the woman. But she was gone, sliding away like smoke through fingers. The urgency in the room returned, pulling him back into reality. But the ache of unanswered questions gnawed at him. Damn it! Nathaniel cursed under his breath, frustration erupting within him. He shook his head, trying to dispel the disorientation. As he turned back to the party, his gaze found Luca. We need to finish this. I'll deal with the woman later, he grumbled, determination bubbling inside him. But deep down, he knew he had to find her. He had to unravel the mystery she carried. He glimpsed the candles flickering, shadows dancing wildly, an omen of chaos to come. This night was only just beginning, and he had a sinking feeling that the secrets would not be kind to him. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from outside, piercing the festive atmosphere. Screams erupted, shattering any facade of control. Panic spread like wildfire, as all eyes turned toward the door, wide with terror. What was happening? Nathaniel felt the heaviness in his chest return, weighing him down. This was no accident. This was a turning point, and he would have to face whatever it was that lay ahead, be it salvation or devastation. He marched toward the source of the chaos, heart racing, mind churning over the unspeakable unknown. But as the crowd surged around him, a dark figure emerged from the shadows once more, and Nathaniel found himself questioning everything. What next? What have I walked into? The crowd erupted in chaos, people shoving and gasping as they peeled away from the door, a collective wave of dread surging through the air. Nathaniel's heart hammered furiously in his chest. He pushed past guests stumbling sideways, each horrified face only adding to the searing sense of urgency coursing through him. What happened? He barked at a woman clutching her partner, eyes wide and glistening. Something's wrong outside. A car crash. Her voice trembled, barely containing her panic. Nathaniel's mind raced. He needed to know what this meant, whether it was connected to the mysterious woman and the secrets she held about his brother. The tight feeling in his chest grew more intense. If something had happened to his brother, he forced his way through to the entrance, the sound of sirens blaring in the distance. Outside, the night seemed drenched in chaos. A luxury sedan lay crumpled against a tree, the metal twisted and hissing as steam poured from the engine. Bystanders gathered, their faces masks of shock. Before he could comprehend the scene, a figure broke from the crowd. It was the woman, the one he had barely spoken to before the night spiraled into madness. She raced toward him, eyes darting with panic, a wild look that sent a chill down his spine. Nathaniel! She yelled, breathless and desperate. You have to listen to me. We're running out of time. He took a step back, confusion mixing with anger. What do you mean? What is going on? "Your brother was in that car," she gasped, trying to grab his arm. "He's in danger, and if we don't act fast stop." "How do you know?" "How could you possibly know?" His voice raised, slicing through the panic swirling around them. She hesitated, and in that brief pause, the weight of her silence hit him like a punch. "I saw him just before he left. There are people after him. We need to get to him before it's too late." Nathaniel's heart sank. The ghost of his brother, of their estrangement, was a wound he had never fully healed. After him? Who's after him? Before she could answer, the sound of sirens grew louder, slicing through the crowd. Emergency responders were starting to arrive, dousing flames that clawed at the luxury vehicle. The shock of the night deepened, the air thick with smoke and uncertainty. "That's not all," she continued, her voice dropping to a whisper. "There are deeper risks involved, things he's been mixed up in. You don't understand the whole picture." Nathaniel glanced toward the wreckage. His mind raced, fear coursing through him. His brother had vanished years ago into a life Nathaniel had tried to forget. Was he pulling back into that world of danger? Was he in trouble he couldn't escape? "Come with me. We need to find him before this spirals even more," Nathaniel said, determination igniting within him, the pain of their past igniting a desperate need to protect. She nodded, urgency in her eyes. Together they plunged back into the chaos, weaving through frightened faces. As they began sprinting towards the parking lot, Nathaniel's phone buzzed violently in his pocket. Ignoring it, he focused on moving forward, their footsteps echoing against the frantic heartbeat of the gathering crowd. But the city was transforming into a labyrinth of shadows, whispers, and secrets. He had no idea what lay ahead, but a deeper instinct surged within him, a need to unravel it all. What could this mean for him, for the brother he thought he'd lost? As their figures slipped away from the crowd, one thought gnawed at the corners of his mind: could there be a truth darker than the past he tried to escape, waiting just beyond the shadows? And were they stepping into a trap of their own making? The pavement felt cold beneath Nathaniel's feet as he sprinted, the cacophony of sirens echoing in his ears. He could sense the woman beside him, her breath quickening, but her eyes remained fixed ahead like a hawk searching for prey. Each footfall drummed a rhythm of anxiety, propelling him away from the chaos and toward uncertainty. "Where exactly do we go?" he panted, glancing to her for direction. "His last known location," she replied fiercely, pointing toward a flickering neon sign in the distance. "The old bar down on 5th. I have a contact there who might know more." Nathaniel's heart twisted. The bar wasn't just a place, it was a sanctuary of the shadows where his brother had been swallowed. It held memories he tried to forget, dark corners filled with secrets. What kind of contact? He pressed, his gut churning. "Someone who belonged to the same world your brother did." "Someone who is still in it," she replied sharply, her voice lowering slightly. "We don't have time to question motives." The rush of wind and distant screams faded into the background. Nathaniel could feel the weight of decisions pressing down on him. The unknown could mean betrayal, but without it, he might lose his brother forever. The bar loomed closer, its facade worn and uninviting. Shadowy figures flitted inside, lending an air of danger that wrapped around him like a cold embrace. As they approached, Nathaniel hesitated. Memories clawed at him night after night of worry, regret, anger, and longing. "Hey!" the woman called out, dragging him from his thoughts. "Focus. We need to get inside." He nodded, forcing away the confusion, bolstering his resolve. They stepped through the door, the stale air hitting him like a punch. The dim light revealed a motley crowd, voices hushed, eyes wary. The woman moved swiftly, weaving her way through, and Nathaniel followed closely, his instincts screaming like alarms. He spotted a man hunched over at the bar, fingers tracing a glass filled with amber liquid, the deep lines on his face betraying a history stained with choices. This man was links to the world Nathaniel had tried to shut out. The woman approached boldly, leaning over the bar. "I need to speak to you about Julian." The man looked up, his expression shifting from curiosity to surprise. "What would you know about him?" Nathaniel felt his heart rate spike. This was at the moment they'd been waiting for. But the man's next words sent a chill down his spine. "He's made some dangerous enemies, and those enemies are now looking for you both," he rasped, his voice barely above a whisper. The atmosphere thickened around them, every pair of eyes turning their way as the tension hung heavy. "What do you mean?" Nathaniel's voice cracked slightly, betraying the storm of fear inside. "They want to ensure that he doesn't talk," the man continued, locking eyes with Nathaniel. "If you're here to help him, you've put yourselves right in the crosshairs." The sudden realization hit Nathaniel like cold water. They hadn't just come seeking answers, they had walked straight into a brewing storm. "Where is he?" he demanded, fists clenching at his sides. Too late, the man grimaced, shaking his head as shadows deepened around them. "They're already here." Before Nathaniel could process the implications, the bar door swung open with a bang, letting in a gust of night air and a group of grim figures that sent a collective shudder through the crowd. Each person instinctively took a step back, fear rippling like electricity. "Get down!" the woman shouted, instinctively pulling Nathaniel to the side. Panic ignited as chaos erupted again. Shouts, gunshots, and the sharp tang of fear filled the room. Nathaniel's heart raced, pounding louder than any siren. Amid the chaos, he realized the truth: they were all in more danger than they had ever anticipated. "Follow me!" the woman yelled, gripping his arm, dragging him toward the back door. But could they outpace the darkness that pursued them? As they scrambled through the bar's exit, the weight of their past and the urgency of the moment collided violently. What awaited them in the alley, and could they escape the trap they had unwittingly set for themselves? The alley was cloaked in shadows, a damp chill curling around Nathaniel like a dark whisper. The woman pulled him along, her hands firm and determined. Each hurried step echoed against the brick walls, amplifying the danger that chased them. "Where to now?" he gasped, frantic. "We cut through the back streets," she replied, glancing over her shoulder. The bar was fading behind them, but the threat felt all too close. "We need to get to the warehouse on the east side." "It's not far." "Why there?" Nathaniel's mind raced, piecing together the fragments of information he had. "What's in the warehouse?" "It's a safe spot. My contact knows how to hide us at least until the heat dies down." Her voice trembled slightly, betraying the tension pooling in her gut. They rounded a corner, the remnants of their past life erased under the dim flicker of a flickering streetlight. Nathaniel could still hear the chaos from the bar, gunshots, screams, decisions they couldn't take back. What did all of this mean for Julian? They sprinted down alleyways, the rhythmic slapping of their sneakers replaced by the swift pounding of their hearts, now synchronized with the urgency coursing through their veins. Nathaniel's breath came in short bursts, each inhale a reminder of how much was at stake. When they reached the edge of the warehouse district, the shadows seemed to deepen, obscuring both the ground and their intentions. "Stay close," the woman instructed, scanning the area as they slipped into another narrow passage. As they approached the heavy metal door, she hesitated. "If things go south they will," Nathaniel interrupted, feeling the weight of uncertainty hang above him like a guillotine. "But I'm not leaving without Julian." With a determined shove, she opened the door, revealing a dimly lit interior. Shadows danced on the walls, the air thick with dust and the scent of rust. Closer quarters felt suffocating and claustrophobic, but the reality of their situation pressed them forward. The woman peered around cautiously. "Where's your contact?" she whispered. "I'll get us out of here." Just as she spoke, a voice echoed from the back. "You're late. I didn't think you'd find your way here after all that commotion." Nathaniel squinted as a figure emerged, tall, broad-shouldered, cloaked in darkness yet unmistakably familiar. It was Darren, a ghost from their past tangled with the darker threads of their lives. "What do you want?" Nathaniel growled, anger and fear tightening his chest. Why are you here? Darren smirked, his presence exuding confidence tinged with menace. I'm here to help, of course, if you're willing to play the game. Not a chance, the woman shot back, stepping in front of Nathaniel. Isn't that cute? Darren chuckled, glancing between them. You're both way over your heads. All this time searching for Julian. But he's the one dragging you into the fire. Nathaniel's stomach twisted. What the hell does that mean? Just that he's not the innocent victim you think he is, Darren said, his tone dripping with mockery. A dangerous silence filled the room. Nathaniel's mind raced. What did Darren know? Before he could ask, the sound of footsteps approached, heavy and determined. Darren's smirk vanished, replaced by a look of concern just as a group of men entered through another door, weapons drawn, their expressions dark, menacing. Looks like our time's up, Darren muttered, eyes darting to the exit. Panic surged through Nathaniel. They had not only found Julian but stirred up a storm that might consume them all. Now what? He whispered, dread crawling over his skin. As the men advanced, a realization hit with betrayal in the air, choices would define their fate. Could Nathaniel fight his way out, or had they stepped into another trap far more dangerous than before? The answer loomed just beyond the flickering shadows. And as the door slammed shut behind them, sealing their fate, Nathaniel knew one thing: nothing would ever be the same again. Nathaniel's heart pounded like a war drum in his chest, every beat echoing the gravity of their situation. The three men who had just entered the room were intimidating, their weapons glinting menacingly in the dim light. Nathaniel felt the woman's rigid stance beside him, her breath quickening. They were cornered. Can we talk about this? Darren's voice was sharp, slicing through the oppressive silence. Talk? One of the men spat, stepping closer, his gaze narrowed. You think we want to talk? We're not in the mood for negotiations. What do you want? Nathaniel tried to project confidence, but the tremor in his voice betrayed him. Let us go. Let us just say your friend owes us a debt, one that needs collecting. The man's smile was cold, chilling Nathaniel to the bone. Darren's expression hardened. You know this isn't the way. If you want Julian, you'll have to take it up with me. Nathaniel's eyes darted between Darren and the armed men. What kind of mess had Julian gotten them tangled in? He could feel the walls pressing in, making it hard to breathe. It was no longer just about his brother, they had stepped into a web woven with danger and deception. Back off, Darren, the leading man warned, leveling his gun at Darren. This doesn't involve you. Step away, and we won't have to make this ugly. The tension in the air thickened, heavy with unshed cries. Nathaniel clenched his fists, willing himself to think clearly. They had no escape route, but they did have each other, if only for now. Derek isn't the one you want, the woman identified as Lucy blurted out, fear resonating in her voice. You need Julian. Take him instead. Nathaniel shot her a confused look, his heart racing faster than his thoughts. What are you doing? Trust me, she hissed back, her eyes locking onto his. It's better than this. The men exchanged glances, intrigued yet wary. What's to stop us from taking both? One of them asked. Because Julian can give you what you want, a bigger payoff, Lucy pressed, desperation evident in her tone. If he's south in the right place, you won't have to worry about a thing. Their expressions shifted from aggression to keen interest. It was a dangerous gamble, but it was the only card they had left to play. Nathaniel's gut twisted as images of Julian flooded his mind, the innocent laugh, the moments of brotherly bonding, now hanging by a thread. Listen to her, Darren said quietly, realizing they might have bought themselves a moment. You want the kid alive, right? The man with the gun hesitated, considering their words. All right, let us say we're willing to talk. Where's this kid? Lucy stepped forward, eyes sharp. A warehouse next to the docks. He'll be there, waiting for you. I don't trust you, the man replied, eyes narrowing once more. You don't have to. But you'll figure it out soon enough. She shot Nathaniel a quick glance, a silent go with it. Before Nathaniel could respond, a shout echoed through the hallway. They weren't alone anymore. Sirens blared in the distance, the unmistakable sound of a coming storm. This isn't over, the man growled, gesturing wildly. Grab them all. Chaos erupted. Bodies collided, the air filled with shouts as Nathaniel and Lucy sprang into action. Darren was suddenly at their side, reuniting against the men who threatened to engulf them. Amid the surge of adrenaline, Nathaniel felt an urgency surging through him, a primal fight for survival. They had to escape. Julian's fate depended on it. He pushed through the confusion, adrenaline coursing through his veins. They dashed toward the door, Nathaniel's breath ragged and shallow. Just as they reached the exit, gunfire erupted from behind, bullets whizzing through the air like angry wasps. Go, go! Lucy shouted, shoving Nathaniel into the open night, the cold wind ripping at their faces. As they fled into the alley, that distant siren sounded closer, merging with their pounding hearts. But they had made a promise to protect Julian. Would they reach him before it was too late? Nathaniel didn't have time to think. Only the darkness of the alley guided him forward. That moment of panic, a horrifying thought crossed his mind. What if Julian was not only in danger but part of something far greater than they realized? As they sprinted further into the night, looming shadows grew bigger, chasing them into uncertainty. What awaited them at the docks? And would they learn the truth before it was too late? The darkness was closing in. Lingering questions rattled in Nathaniel's mind. Would this lead to salvation or doom? There was only one way to find out. Nathaniel pushed into the alley, his lungs burning, the cold air stinging his throat. Lucy was just ahead, darting between shadows, urging him to keep moving. Darren flanked their right, eyes scanning for any sign of their relentless pursuers. Every step felt like running through a nightmare. The sound of sirens screeched closer, a reminder that time was running out. Which way? Nathaniel gasped, desperate for direction as panic clawed at him. Keep going straight. Lucy shouted over her shoulder, her voice a beacon in the dark. We can't stop until we find a place to hide. They skidded around a corner, breathless, but Nathaniel's thoughts flickered back to Julian, his younger brother, so innocent and unaware of the danger. Why was he even at that warehouse? Nathaniel muttered, frustration spilling from him. He'd always been the protector. Had he failed? Focus. Darren snapped, urgency lining his voice. Don't let your head spiral. We need to stay sharp. Nathaniel nodded, but fear nestled deeper into his gut. What if Julian was already in the hands of those men? A wave of despair washed over him, threatening to drown his resolve. They ducked into an alcove, moldy bricks pressing against their backs. Heartbeats echoed all around them, shouting louder than the sirens. Do you think they'll listen to us at the docks? Darren asked, trying to catch his breath. Maybe, Lucy said, shaking her head. But we need proof, something to offer them. Otherwise, they could just decide it's easier to get rid of us. Great, more pressure, Nathaniel rasped. What do we have? Suddenly, a flash caught his eye, a figure emerging from the far end of the alley, silhouetted against the streetlights. Nathaniel tensed. We're not alone. The figure stepped closer, a man dressed in black, face obscured by a hood. Nathaniel. Lucy, he called, voice a guttural rasp, echoing unervingly in the empty alley. What do you want? Lucy demanded, her voice trembling. I've got information, he said, eyes glinting dangerously as he approached. Information that could help. Help? Or lead us into a trap? Darren challenged, defensively positioning himself in front of Lucy. Take a breath, buddy. I'm not here to fight. The man raised his hands slowly, revealing a flash drive nestled in his palm. This could save your brother. I have the details on everything. Julian's location, the guys you're dealing with. Nathaniel's heart raced as he took a step forward, drawn by desperation. How do we know you're telling the truth? Because I've seen what they're capable of, the man shot back, his voice a low growl. And I want them out of the equation too. A piercing noise cut through the tension. A gunshot echoed from the direction they had come. The atmosphere turned electric with dread. People began shouting in the streets nearby. Nathaniel's instincts screamed for action. Show us. He urged, adrenaline igniting within him. The man hesitated. It's not safe here. We need to move, now. No. Darren's voice boomed through the night, a warning. You're not leading us anywhere without proof. Enough. Nathaniel shot back. Julian is out there. Either we follow him, or we risk everything for nothing. The urgency in Nathaniel's voice hung heavy in the air. They all turned to look at one another, weighing their options. Fine, Darren relented, his eyes sharp and defiant. Lead the way. With the stranger in the lead, they slipped back into the shadows, the darkness enveloping them once more. Nathaniel's heart raced not just from fear, but from a sliver of hope. They might still save Julian, escape this nightmare, but doubt gnawed at him. Could they truly trust this man? With every step deeper into the unknown, Nathaniel felt the weight of his brother's life pressing down on him, the alley twisted, reality shifting as they followed. Were they walking toward salvation or a trap that would seal their fates? The answers loomed just ahead, but with each step, the air thickened with trepidation. Nathaniel's breath hitched. He glanced back, unable to shake the feeling that they weren't just being followed, they were being hunted. As they rounded the final corner, Nathaniel froze, eyes wide. The warehouse loomed before them, dark and foreboding, lights flickering ominously. Silent sentinels, guarding secrets buried deep inside. Here we go, the stranger murmured. But Nathaniel felt every fiber of his being scream that they had walked into the lion's den. What would they find inside? And would it lead them to Julian, or to their doom? The air thickened with tension, suffocating and heavy. As they stood before the warehouse, Nathaniel's mind raced. Shadows danced along the walls, taunting him with the flicker of light. The stranger shifted impatiently, glancing over his shoulder. Quickly. We don't have much time, he urged, his voice barely above a whisper. There was a frantic edge in his eyes that made Nathaniel's stomach churn. What if there are guards? Darren asked, his breath hitching. We need a plan. Get ready to run, Nathaniel said. Lucy, stay close. Darren, watch our backs. Urgency laced his words. They didn't have the luxury of hesitation. With a nod, the stranger led the way, creeping forward like a predator. The trio followed, their hearts pounding like war drums against their chests. Inside, the warehouse yawned open, a vast cavern filled with looming shadows and echoes of past conversations. Nathaniel fought to keep his breathing steady. He could almost feel the weight of Julian's absence pressing down on him, pulling him deeper into despair. What now? Lucy whispered, her voice trembling as they stepped inside. She looked around, eyes wide, taking in the cold, metallic aroma of rust and dust. Wait here, the stranger instructed, moving stealthily into the heart of the warehouse. Nathaniel exchanged glances with Lucy and Darren, uncertainty gnawing at his resolve. The seconds stretched like hours as they hesitated, every creak of the wooden floorboards echoing their tension. Just when Nathaniel thought they'd been forgotten, the stranger emerged from the shadows, his expression grave. They're holding Julian in a room at the back, he said, his voice low and urgent. But you need to be careful. They've got security armed men. Do you know how many? Darren asked, his fists clenching hard at his sides. A few. Maybe more, the man replied, annoyance flaring in his voice. We can't waste time debating. We have to go now. Gritting his teeth, Nathaniel felt a fresh wave of resolve surge through him. No more hesitation. Lead the way, he said, steel in his voice. They moved deeper into the warehouse, the darkness closing in around them. Fear trailed at their heels like a ghost, a constant reminder of what they stood to lose. Nathaniel's mind raced images of Julian's smile battling against the horror of what might be happening to him. As they neared the back, the stranger raised a cautionary hand, signaling for silence. They crept along a narrow corridor lined with metal doors, each one whispering secrets of the unknown. Suddenly, a loud crash shattered the stillness, followed by heavy footsteps. Nathaniel's heart plummeted. They know we're here. He hissed. Run. The stranger barked, lunging forward just as a door swung open ahead. Nathaniel's instincts kicked in. This way. He urged, dragging Lucy and Darren with him. They darted for the nearest doorway, heartbeats pounding like war drums in unison. It was a dark supply room, cluttered with crates and old machinery. They crouched low, listening as footsteps thundered outside, commands shouted in harsh, clipped voices. Did you hear that? One voice barked. Check the back. Another snapped. They can't have gone far. The threat hung heavy in the air, electrifying the darkness around them. Nathaniel's mind raced. They were cornered now, seeking a way out. What would happen if they were caught? What if Julian was beyond reach? Fear bit hard, but Nathaniel clung to hope. We can't give up, he breathed, heart racing as he scanned the room for any escape. A glimmer caught his eye, a small, barred window high above the stack of crates. It was just wide enough. If they could climb, they might just squeeze through. Lucy, Darren, come on. He urged, pointing. The room's shadows seemed to breathe, and time stretched agonizingly as they rushed to the crates. With adrenaline fueling them, they scrambled up, the cacophony of the searching voices growing nearer. Just as Nathaniel reached for the window, a loud bang on the door rattled the room. They're coming. He shouted, panic spilling into his voice that it was now or never. Nathaniel pushed his body through the opening, dropping onto the other side. He landed hard on the pavement outside, the cold jolting him back to reality. Go. Now. He yelled, as Lucy squeezed through after him, with Darren right behind, but as they stood there, breathless and wide-eyed, Nathaniel heard a distant scream echoing from within the warehouse. The chilling sound pierced his hope like a knife. No. Julian. He cried out, spinning around. They had come so close, but what lay waiting inside both for him and for his brother could change everything they thought they knew. The weight of a life hung in the balance, and Nathaniel's next move might determine their fate. Would they go back to rescue Julian, or risk it all to escape? The decision loomed heavy, and with it came a terrifying question: how far would he go to save his brother? Nathaniel stood frozen, the echo of Julian's scream reverberating in his mind like a cracked bell tolling the end. His heart raced with terror and defiance, the urge to rush back battling against the instinct to flee. He could feel Lucy's hand trembling in his as she whispered breathlessly, "What do we do?" Darren looked between them, his brow furrowed. "We can't just leave him. Not after coming this far." The urgency in his voice sliced through Nathaniel's panic. "Then let us go back," Nathaniel said, his voice low and determined, but doubt twisted in his stomach. What if they walked into a trap? A sudden flash of movement from the warehouse door made them all flinch. Shadows shifted as a figure rushed past, yelling into a radio. "We need backup. They're outside." The truth hit him like a physical blow. They were cornered, they didn't have much time. "We can't linger," he hissed, panic threading through him. "If we go back, we sacrifice ourselves." Lucy's eyes sparkled with resolve, cutting through their despair. "There has to be another way." "If we can distract them, you mean create a diversion?" "Are you crazy?" Darren snapped, though his eyes shone with a hint of hope. Nathaniel weighed the thought, trying to shove aside the buzzing noise of fear. What if we set something off? Noise, lights, anything to draw their attention away from the back. We can find Julian while they're distracted. Okay, but Darren started, but Lucy chimed in, her voice steady. I can do it. I'll use those crates. She gestured toward the stacks lining the side of the building. I can tip them over. It'll create a lot of noise. If we hurry, the risk sent Nathaniel's heart racing. If they were caught, they would never make it back alive. But the thought of Julian alone and in pain fueled his resolve. Fine, Nathaniel agreed, adrenaline surging through him. Darren, keep watch. I'll help Lucy. We need to be quick. With tense, synchronized movements, Lucy and Nathaniel tiptoed to the nearest stack of crates, fear prickling at their backs like icy fingers. Each creak of the floor felt like a shout, a plea to the guard standing just outside. Just a little more, Nathaniel murmured, barely aware of the hushed urgency in his own voice. As they nudged the crates, they barely breathed, listening intently for signs of approaching footsteps. Finally, with one more shove, the top crates toppled over, clattering loudly to the floor. Now! Nathaniel shouted, adrenaline pushing him forward as he raced to Darren. The trio bolted deeper into the warehouse, heading toward the sound of Julian's scream mirrored in their ears. They ducked past shadows and blurred figures, every ounce of instinct screaming at Nathaniel to keep going. The cries grew louder, raw and pained, wrapping around his heart like a vice. Fighting the urge to turn back, Nathaniel led the way, each pounding step rallying them forward through the chaos. There it was, a door marked with faint light spilling into the corridor. Julian! Nathaniel shouted, desperation rising in his throat. He pushed the door open to reveal a dimly lit room filled with metal restraints and broken furniture. And there, huddled in the corner, bound and bruised, Julian looked up with wide eyes. Julian! Nathaniel rushed in, heart heavy with relief mixed with fear. The room pulsed with tension, the air thick and stale. He could almost feel the weight of every moment slipping through his fingers. Get me out of here! Julian gasped, his voice hoarse, fingers trembling as they clawed against the restraints. But before Nathaniel could reach him, the heavy door burst open, shattering their hopeful reunion. Two armed guards stumbled in, shock coloring their faces. Stop right there! One shouted, raising his weapon. The moment hung thick with dread, Nathaniel's pulse thundered in his ears. They had pushed all their chips on this reckless gamble, now the house was calling their bluff. Run! He shouted at Lucy and Darren, instinctively pushing them back toward the exit, heart racing, but would they even make it back after risking everything? The clock was ticking. The stakes higher than ever. Would they find freedom, or would this plunge lead to their doom? Nathaniel had to answer that question now, or everything they fought for would be lost in the echo of gunfire and screams. Everything changed in a single heartbeat. Nathaniel stood frozen, the harsh commands of the guards echoing like a death knell. The world around him blurred, all he could see was Julian, the boy who had always looked up to him, the brother he had fought to protect. Get down! He shouted, shoving Lucy and Darren behind him just as shots rang out. Bullets whizzed past, shattering the air with sharp, jarring cracks. Instinct kicked in. Nathaniel dove to the floor, rolling to shield Julian with his body. Stay down! He gasped, the weight of the moment pressing like a weight on his chest. Julian's frightened eyes widened, locked on his brother. Nathaniel, please, we're getting out of here, Nathaniel growled through gritted teeth, adrenaline pumping through his veins. He would protect Julian, no matter the cost. Lucy and Darren scrambled to their feet. There's no way out through here. Lucy yelled, frantic. We need to distract them. I'll hold them off, Nathaniel shot back, mind racing. They needed a plan, fast. No. We'll all die. Darren hissed, panic creeping into his voice. Just listen. We can't just give up. Nathaniel snapped, his desperation boiling over. In that moment, he knew he couldn't risk losing another brother. He wouldn't let the universe keep taking from him. Then create a diversion. Julian shouted, his voice trembling but fierce. You can do this, Nathaniel. Nathaniel looked into his brother's eyes, seeing the fear and the hope all wrapped up together. It ignited something within him. Fine. Lucy, help me with the crates again. Darren, you keep watch. They worked quickly, adrenaline thrumming through them as they toppled crates and created a cacophony behind them. The guards paused, confusion flooding their eyes. Nathaniel took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment press down. Now! He roared, bolting toward Julian and grabbing his brother's arm, yanking him to his feet. But before they could move, another guard appeared at the door wielding a gun, anger etched across his face. You're not getting out of here. He roared, leveling the weapon. Run! Nathaniel yelled at Julian, shoving him toward the exit. A loud bang echoed as the guard pulled the trigger, and time slowed with the sickening crack of gunfire, but Darren leaped forward. The bullet struck, grazing his arm, and he stumbled back but not before creating a frantic distraction. Go now! He shouted through gritted teeth, courage blazing even as he faltered, with panic propelling them. Nathaniel grabbed Julian's hand and ran. The two of them surged forward, the chaotic sounds of chaos ringing in their ears. They dashed through the door, crashing into the main expanse of the warehouse just as more guards flooded into the room behind them. Keep running! Nathaniel urged, pulling Julian close as they darted between stacks of forgotten furniture. The exits loomed ahead, shimmering with the promise of freedom. But still, heavy footsteps followed close behind. A sudden explosion of noise shattered the air. Lucy had ignited a firework of chaos, smoke filling the space, drowning screams in a dense fog. This way! She yelled, beckoning them toward a side exit. Nathaniel dashed after her, pulling Julian behind him. They shoved through the door as the smoke billowed behind them, the chaos echoing across the shouts of rage and confusion. But freedom was just outside, the cool night air a balm against the heavy dread. We made it! Julian cried, but Nathaniel didn't lose focus. He needed to get his brother to safety. Get down! Nathaniel shouted as a flash of light filled the alleyway behind them. But it wasn't pursuit, it was an explosion, a fiery eruption of bricks and debris tumbling into the night. Darren had found a way, shooting a flare to buy them time. They dashed into the darkness, hearts pounding together like synchronized drums, feet moving as one. Trust and desperation carried them along until they reached the safety of the street, stepping into the thrum of city life, but before they could breathe, a car screeched to a halt beside them. Darren emerged from behind them. Face pale but spirited. Get in! He yelled, urgency spilling from every word. With no time to waste, Nathaniel shoved Julian into the back seat before jumping in himself. Drive! Drive! He yelled, fear thrumming against his ribs as the world around them blurred into motion. The car sped off, weaving through the chaos, tearing away from the shadows of the warehouse. Nathaniel slumped back in his seat, breathing heavily, the weight of victory and loss rolling over him like an overwhelming tide. Beside him, Julian looked bruised but alive. Tears glimmered in his eyes, relief mingled with fear. Nathaniel reached out, clutching his little brother's shoulder, choking on the rush of gratitude that swelled in his chest. Never again, Nathaniel whispered, voice shaking. I'll do anything to keep you safe. I promise. Lucy, catching her breath in the front, looked back at them, determination etched on her face. We'll figure this out together. You're not alone. As the lights of the city blurred past, joy and relief coursed through Nathaniel, mixing with the buzzing urgency. They were still fighting, still living. They would find a way to heal. But even as hope filled his heart, shadows lingered in the back of his mind. Who would come after them next? What price would he have to pay for their freedom? The battle was only beginning, and the scars of the past would forever be inked into his skin. But this time, he had love on his side. And love? Love was a force he would never take for granted again. Before the engine died down, he had one last thought: I will protect you, no matter what. Your journey doesn't have to end here. You need to subscribe now to ensure you don't miss any more burning stories that touch your heart. Smash that like button now so this message gets out to more people who need it, and don't forget to flood the comments section with your reactions and theories. Share your thoughts about Nathaniel and Julian's journey. This is the moment to show your support and remind everyone how powerful love can be. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share.